Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
$11 o'clock on Edmonton Sports Talk. Thank you very much for being here on TuneIn, on iHeart, at EdmontonSportsTalk.com, and of course over on YouTube. Hammer the thumbs up as you try to make Lock Shop Show of the Year at the Estes. Big Uke keeping tabs, and it was a little bit of a bloodbath, but I am in first, so I guess there's that. Tough start for the boys on the spreads in the postseason. My goodness, I'm 2 for 3. That's the best. Gross. Huss, I can't even believe it. To be honest with you, I prefer Huss doesn't show his face today. I feel bad for the guy. An 0-5 start to the playoffs for him. P. Greggy and Jake, not much better. 1-4. Just a tough week. I can salvage a 500 week tonight if the Vikings can, or if the Rams can get the 2.5. Jake's gonna join us today. Pat's gonna join us tomorrow. We'll do golf a little bit earlier because he's got some stuff going on Wednesday. So yeah, Jake will be by around 11:30 today, and we'll get his thoughts on everything that happened yesterday. And we'll set up I got an EST Oilers parlay already up over at Coolbet. We got that boost today. Oilers money line and Kyron Williams touchdown. That's over 2-1. If you want to find that, it'll be in the combo cards over at Coolbet as well. Trevor, we good to bring in Huss there? All right, let's bring in the man himself. Huss, what's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Well, listen, I mean, obviously, against the spread was a bit of a disaster for everyone, but me particularly. If anyone had the stones just to straight up fade me, congratulations. Although I will say this, no one was very good. Some weird games. No. Depending on what happens tonight, though, I'm pretty sure I'll still end up being the big winner out of all four of us for the weekend, because you will recall the last order of business on the Lock Shop was to tell everyone to ride with me on Ladd McConkey to have the most receiving yards this week.
That's true.
He dropped 197. Now, considering my luck so far this week, watch Justin Jefferson go for 198
or Puka. Or Puka.
But
There's two options.
If one of those guys goes for 200, I mean, I'll just throw my hat in the ring and take the L. But it is the most bizarre situation to be in when I actually have the opportunity to be up this weekend despite being 0-5. And that was that. I told you, I love those weekly
They
props.
are fun. You're right. 100%, man. And that was a great number on McCarthy. How did the Chargers score 12 points with a receiver who had almost 200 yards? How is that possible?
Dude, they were like, that game should have been over in the second quarter. The Texans were so bad for 29 minutes in that game, and the Chargers just could not get out of their own way. They weren't able to do anything in the red zone. And then, I mean, in that last minute of the first half, the Texans go down, score a touchdown. The Chargers take all of 10 seconds off the clock on their possession, and then C.J. Stroud goes down to Nico Collins, and they get another field goal. That was just a bizarre game. And I have some friends that are big time Charger fans, and they are just sick to their stomachs.
As they should be.
I mean, you had to think that, admittedly, this team, I think, was a year ahead of schedule. With the receivers that they lost this year and what they had to do with the cap, kind of thought that maybe they'd be more contending next year. But then you get there, and then you get the 5 seed, you get the advantageous matchup. Everyone wanted to play the Texans, and just weren't able to get it done. Like, I'm looking here, and we got to talk about Justin Herbert. I mean, for everyone anointing him as a top 5 quarterback, I mean, we know who the top 4 are: Mahomes, Lamar, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. A lot of people would have Justin Herbert as their number 5 guy in the league right now. And I guess you can make that argument. What happened on Saturday was a big, big blow to him. 14 of 32, 242 yards, and 4 picks. I mean, if you want to know why the Chargers weren't able to win, look no further than that stat line.
That was an awful game. We had Mike Tenier on this morning from Two Deep Zone, and he goes, I guess he's kind of been like fade Justin Herbert guy for quite some time, and he's just like, okay, feel free to join me in the association of not believing in Justin Herbert, and obviously a case me made there. What about on the other side? Not of that game. Well, actually, yeah, let's go on the other side of that game because the Texans have already opened as an 8-point dog against the Kansas City Chiefs. Huss, was there anything from that game that makes you change the way you view the Texans? Not that we were going to pick them to upset the Chiefs anyway, but did they earn your respect in any way, beating the Chargers the way they did?
Well, I mean, listen, I'm going to give their defense a lot of credit. I mean, it wasn't just that Justin Herbert decided to have his worst game of the season. I mean, obviously the defense plays a big role in that. What was that guy's name that got suspended? Azeez Al-Shaair. He was an absolute menace in that game. And I'll say this. I mean, as a Chiefs guy, I am very leery and concerned to a degree. Chiefs are going to need to be ready for their pass rush. I mean, Will Anderson had a sack and a half. Mario Edwards had a sack and a half. They can be problematic. When you think of what the Chiefs have been dealing with on the offensive line, having to move Joe Thuney out to left tackle on a couple of occasions late in the game, they are going to need to be ready. And listen, Joe Mixon, I wasn't sure whether that Joe Mixon run we saw at the start of the season was going to carry over. But man, he touched 106 yards. And the fact of the matter was they were able to run the football a lot in the second half. Like that, the end of the first half, going from what they, as I said, should have been down double digits, but weren't, to actually being up 4, it put all the pressure on the Chargers. They didn't handle it very well. And then I think the Texans got back to a style of play that's far more conducive for them winning with the receivers that they've got out. I mean, playing from behind is not good when you basically have one receiver. You get a nice lead, play good defense, run the football a lot, eat the clock. That's exactly what that did. I thought D'Amico Ryans did a good job, but just amazing at how that game turned the way that it did in the final minute of the first half.
It's Nielsen Huss with you here on the Lock Shop as we recap all the weekend wildcard action in the National Football League. Let's stay on Saturday. And the Ravens were up 21-0 at the half. The Steelers put up 14 points in the third quarter. There were some opportunities in the fourth quarter to make that game very interesting. But in the end, the Baltimore Ravens just ran all over the Pittsburgh Steelers, Huss. I mean, like 270, 280 yards on the ground from Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. It just was too much for Pittsburgh to handle.
The Ravens are a problem. The Ravens are a big problem. And, I mean, listen, I could spend the entire week just talking about this Bills-Ravens game we've got on Sunday. It is going to be so good. It's a game that I think we've wanted to see. Well, I've certainly wanted to see it because that meant that the Chiefs didn't have to what they did last year, and that's beat both of them in the playoffs. I think that is a very, very tough act to follow. But, I mean, they went in. I was stunned at how well they handled Pittsburgh's defense. I mean, Pittsburgh's defense has been the backbone, and I know they showed cracks during that last month when they were playing really good teams. But to be honest, part of the reason why I thought that they could keep that game close was just how much better they looked in the last game of the season, in an important game against Cincinnati. Now, they didn't win, but the fact that they didn't win was more on the fact that they had George Pickens did nothing, and they weren't really able to do much offensively. I thought the defense was ready for the challenge, and that defense traditionally gives the Baltimore Ravens fits. Baltimore dared them to stop them on the ground, and they just simply couldn't. I mean, 41 carries between two guys. Like, what did Lamar only threw the ball 21 times. They ran the ball 50 times in that game.
Yeah. It was unnecessary to do anything else. I mean,
anyone that's ever played football knows if you're on the defensive side and they're basically telling you, hey, we're running the football, we dare you to stop us, and you can't do it.
Oh, demoralizing.
It is just absolutely demoralizing. And I mean, that game was over in the first half. I mean, the Steelers did get, as you mentioned, a couple touchdowns in the third quarter to kind of put lipstick on a pig. But those two teams are in different classes right now. And the Steelers are one of the kind of the mid-lower tier playoff teams. The Ravens are a legit Super Bowl contender. And I don't know how the Bills are going to handle that offense, especially if they get Zay Flowers back next week. I mean, he had such a dynamic to the passing game. They didn't need it against the Steelers. But I'd imagine they probably will a little bit more against the Buffalo Bills. And, again, not to look ahead past this weekend, the one thing the Chiefs did so well last year in the AFC Championship game was completely nullify the Ravens running game early and force them to just bail on it and make Lamar Jackson beat you. And he wasn't able to do it. Now, the question is, have they juiced up that running game so much with Derrick Henry? Will they even get to that point, or will they just be able to run all over teams for the next 2 weeks and run their way to New Orleans?
Yeah, it's interesting because, they already had the most unique rushing quarterback in the National Football League. And then, in a way, they went out and got the most unique running back as well, because the guy's just a bloody monster. So they could I can't wait for this Ravens-Bills game, man. It's going to be tremendous. We're going to get to the Saturday games, but some news from the National Football League just moving here. Mike McCarthy is out as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And I just was looking at a tweet from Adam Schefter talking about they missed their window to interview a lot of these, like the Lions guys. They could have chatted with them in the past week. They didn't do that. So what do you think Dallas is up to here, buddy? And do you think another team scoops up Mike McCarthy because of all the success that he had in Dallas?
Listen, well, and longtime listeners know, I'm not a big Mike McCarthy guy. I mean, listen, I shouldn't be. He's taken pretty good rosters and had good regular seasons.
Yeah, that's it.
They have been so disappointing come playoff time in the previous seasons during his time with the Cowboys. And then I don't really blame him that much for this year. I mean, they lost so many players. I didn't think that they were particularly an elite team to begin with, even with everyone that was already there. So, if anything, he could have gotten a mulligan this year just based on it. But the timing was everything. I mean, he was fortunate to keep his job last year after that choke job against the Packers in round 1 at home in the playoffs. Jerry's a really loyal guy. I'll give him that. So I'm actually a little surprised to see that that's come out. You would have thought that, if you were going to do that, you'd do that a week ago. Because just last week, the Cowboys denied one of the other teams an opportunity to speak with Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, so wasn't it the Bears? The Bears were interested in him, weren't they? I know they were linked to him. Yeah, so anyway, Mike McCarthy out in Dallas. We can get to that a little bit more. We'll see where they go from there. But let's get back to these Saturday games. Jake's going to join us around 11:30 today. The Buffalo Bills, 31-7 against the Broncos. First playoff games of a playoff year. Josh Allen has been outstanding for the last few years. Huss, we were both on the Broncos in this one. Started well. Not very good after that, I guess.
No. But, you're getting 9 points in a playoff game.
It was 10-7 at the half.
Well, absolutely.
Right,
I mean, look, I was kind of thinking, okay, this is going to be, the Denver defense is going to hold them in. I was impressed with what Buffalo did defensively after that first bit. I mean, they really didn't give them much at all. And then Josh Allen got going. And, to put up, what did they put up? 21 in the second half. leave a clean sheet after that early one. They were just in complete control of the game. And, like the other games, you see, we spend so much time talking about the quarterbacks, and then it comes to the playoffs. Look at these rushing numbers of Derrick Henry. James Cook went for $120 and had 23 carries. The run game and ability to stop the run is so, so important. But listen, it was disappointing for Denver not to be able to generate a little bit more offensively. I mean, I know Bo Nix is a rookie quarterback, but between him and Sean Payton and, the weapons that they have, I mean, Courtland Sutton was listen, he had 75 yards. If you're going to beat the Buffalo Bills, you needed a much bigger game from that guy. But listen, for both the Chargers and the Broncos, I think once you get a little ways from the disappointment of this week, they'll look back at this seasons and think, okay, they took huge steps forward.
Yep.
They're now in the playoff conversation, and we'll see if their young quarterbacks can continue to grow. You can add some more pieces around them, and maybe, just maybe, for the first time in a decade, we'll have a legitimate race for the AFC West title, because KC has basically owned that since the day Andy Reid walked into Arrowhead, and it hasn't been close. But listen, good on the Bills, but as good as they were on Sunday, they're going to need to be that and a whole lot better, I think, if they want to handle the Ravens at home next week.
Yeah, and we'll take a look at some of these opening lines here for the week in just a moment. Packers, it was not Justin Herbert-esque, but it wasn't far off. 3 interceptions for Jordan Love, and an Eagles team, they put up 22. Saquon didn't have a touchdown, had 25 carries, though, for 119 yards. Does that game change your view of the Eagles moving forward at all? And where you come out on this game if you're a Packers fan after an 11-win regular season?
It was... I thought that game was still there for the taking, except for the fact that they were just so depleted. Like, the second Jaden Reed went down, it was over. I mean, I hadn't even heard of a couple of the receivers. I know,
there's a couple guys.
I'm like, who is this guy? Never heard of him. I thought Josh Jacobs played his ass off. That run that he had down to the goal line that got the Packers their 1 touchdown after Reed got hurt was vintage. But they needed everything to go their way if they were going to win that game. Once they started losing some of their receivers, and I have a hard time giving Love too much heat because of what he was working with, and you got to take some more chances when you're in a situation like that and playing from behind. From the Phillies side of things, and Philly's going to get the winner of tonight's game. I think that they're going to need to be better if they want to
play better than they did this week. 100% agree.
Yeah, I just don't think that they were at, maybe at a Super Bowl level. And I certainly don't think that they're beating the Lions playing that way. But Philly's really good. They've got a really good defense. They did not give up much all day to the Green Bay Packers. And, if they can get things going a little bit more with the arm of Jalen Hurts, it's kind of funny. We're sitting here talking about how important the running game is. And look at what Buffalo's doing. And look at what Baltimore's doing. And, in the Houston, the Eagles run the football nonstop. They're kind of the other side of things. That the Eagles are going to run. Can Jalen Hurts have enough juice in that passing game to kind of keep the defenses honest? And bottom line, get balls to guys like A.J. Brown, who had a little bit quiet day, but did get in some reading on the sidelines. So
yeah, he did.
If I'm a Philly fan, I'm like, hey, job well done. You move on to next week. But I'm pretty sure that even Nick Sirianni is telling his team, hey, guys, that was good, but it wasn't great. And we need to be great if we're going to be a Super Bowl team.
Best game of the weekend last night, the Commanders and the Bucs. The Commanders win on the doink at the end of the game. Jaden Daniels goes 24-35, 268, 2 touchdowns. A fumble from Baker Mayfield, the big difference. And this game still could have gone either way, but that was a backbreaker after you just stop the Commanders, you get the ball back, and you turn it over on the very next play in that position on the field, Huss. That just was not meant to be at that point.
No. And listen, first off, I don't want to bury the lead, Jaden Daniels deserves all the credit. Like for
So composed.
For all the talk that we were mentioning about the good teams and the teams that won were able to run the football, the Commanders could not run the football, which doesn't bode well for them moving forward. They averaged 2.5 yards a carry. They ran the ball 33 times for a total of 82 yards. And that's terrible. But then you look at what Jaden Daniels was able to do with his arm. No picks, 24 of 35. He made a few plays last night on third down that completely flipped the game, to be honest. So listen, he deserves every bit of credit that he's getting right now. And so does Dan Quinn. I mean, the coach and overall, I mean, that Washington unit, really impressive. And they're a great story this year just to make the playoffs. But then, unlike the Chargers and Broncos who got there, but then got taken care of really quickly, to get a win like that on a road against a good team. So impressed with Washington. But Tampa's got to be sick this morning. I mean, because they had that game and they blew it. Like the fumble by Baker was devastating. But to me, I mean, the biggest regret is in the fourth quarter, 6 minutes left. The Bucs down 3. They have a great drive. They get down. They get it to 2nd and 1. And then do a fake handoff to Bucky Irving and then have Baker run behind him. That gets blown up for no gain. And then that's the third down where the center snapped it before anyone knew that the ball was coming. I mean, that's like that's the Raiders do that. The Jets do that. You can't be doing that in the fourth quarter of a freaking playoff game. So, I mean, they lose 3-4 yards, and then all of a sudden they have to kick the field goal. They tie it up. They never see the ball again. So, I mean, a couple of really bad mistakes was the difference. And the other thing I'll say about Tampa, they were so undisciplined yesterday. Like the amount of penalties that they took, especially in the first half, completely killed them. So, listen, the Commanders are the feel-good story right now. The playoffs, going to be wild to see them, what they can do going into Ford Field against a jacked-up Lions team coming off the bye. But at least we had a close game because those first 4 games were
no drama at all.
There were some good players in them. They were brutal games. Like there was just absolutely no juice in the fourth quarter of any of those. We did get it in Tampa last night, but felt bad for Baker and the boys, but they've got only themselves to blame, as good as Jaden Daniels was.
We will get to the Monday Nighter with Jake. He's going to pop by around 11:30 today. But just the 3 games that are already set. Kansas City, 8-point home favorites against the Texans. The Lions, 8.5-point favorites against the Commanders. The total in the Lions-Commanders games, 55.5. On the other side of things, the total in the Texans-Chiefs game is 41.5. And then you've got the Ravens and Bills. And the Ravens have opened as a 1-point road favorite. The total in that game sitting at 51.5. Huss, of the 3 lines we already have, what jumps off the page for you?
Well, to be honest, the Ravens didn't open at one.
Oh, they did. What did they open at? Because they're at
opened as 1.5-point dogs. And this game has been, like, I checked it last night, I checked it early this morning, and I checked it now, and it's got more towards Baltimore every single time. The first number that I saw yesterday, as I said, was 1.5, and then quickly to 1, like 1 almost immediately, like while I was looking at it. And I think it had just sort of dropped. The money line at that time was Bills minus 111 and the Ravens minus 105. Earlier this morning when I checked, that had flipped. So the Ravens were minus 111 and the Bills were minus 105. And more money's coming in on the Ravens right now. So the Ravens are at minus 114 and minus 103. I can't say that I'm surprised. I think based on, I mean, if you look at the numbers guys and the sharps and whatnot, when they're putting together their rankings and their calculations of all these teams, I mean, the Bills or the Ravens probably are the number one team in the AFC, I would imagine. Like, I think a lot of Kansas City's metrics aren't really particularly good considering a lot of ways that they won their games. Listen, the Bills getting home field advantage is big, but we remember these two teams playing earlier this season. Baltimore massacred the Bills on that Sunday nighter. It was 35-10, if I recall correctly. And now the Bills got full marks for getting home field, and that'll certainly help them. But I have a hard time not agreeing with the Ravens being a very, very slight favorite in this game. And I think I'll probably be on the Ravens. And my regretting now not putting a nuke on the Ravens when I saw it first at minus 105, knowing full well that I think there'll be a lot of public support. I just think a lot of people are going to be on Baltimore because of what they've done this season and how good they looked against Pittsburgh in what was probably a much tougher matchup than the one that the Bills handled.
Yeah, it looks like 88% of the money coming in on the Ravens so far in that game between the Ravens and the Bills. What do we got? Should we dive into some hockey and then come back around with football with Jake? Should we take a look at the 3 games tonight? There's only 3 games tonight.
Okay, yeah, let's hit that
quickly because we're going to have Jake. He's going to pop on here shortly, I believe. I have the Edmonton Sports Talk parlay is up. That is Draisaitl over 2.5 shots. So Draisaitl 3 shots, Bouchard and Hyman both with a point. Oilers to win tonight against the Kings at plus 450. So real tight game tonight between the Kings and Oilers, which juices that number up for us a little bit. Draisaitl 3 shots, Bouchard and Hyman both with a point, plus 450 with the Oilers winning on the money line. Just the 3 games tonight: Panthers, Flyers, Flames, Blackhawks, Kings, and the Oilers. The total in that Kings-Edmonton game sitting at 5.5. You don't see many Oilers games at 5.5, but that just goes to show how well the Los Angeles Kings have been playing defensively. Calgary, Chicago, and then Florida and Philly. Huss, what's your take on those other 2 games, or do you have a take on the Kings and Oilers as well?
Well, listen, I mean, we saw the Kings come in here on Friday to the Peg and beat the Jets in OT. Now, I don't know if this is, like, I haven't watched enough of the Kings play other teams this year. But I will tell you this. Prepare for a less than exciting game, even as good as the Oilers are. That game on Friday night, and keep in mind, the first time the Jets and Kings played this season, LA limited Winnipeg to 14 shots on goal. And they did such a good job of clogging things up in the first 2 periods against Winnipeg on Friday night. The Jets' big guys kind of woke up and had a great third period, scored a beautiful goal, got it to OT, and then it was just a long shift by Connor, and Scheifele ended up in the back of the net. Tough for Eric Comrie. But the Kings are really good at playing low-event hockey. I think the final shots in that game on Friday night with the overtime was 23-19.
Oh, boy.
Well, I'm actually pretty impressed with what the Kings are able to do. They're sort of playing that playoff style right now. I mean, I still think that the Oilers have handled the Kings the past number of years in the playoffs. They certainly have more hot firepower, and they seem to be playing good right now. But maybe I would say the number, there's probably some value on the Kings. Like, I've got enough respect for them. I think maybe the Oilers shouldn't be as big of a favorite as they are. And as far as the other games go, Philly coming off that ass kicking of the Ducks on Cutter Gauthier night on Saturday. They move up a weight class, a few actually, taking on the Florida Panthers. I think I'd lean Florida in that game. And then, of course, the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks almost did it again to the Oilers. Weren't they up 3-1 late in the second period?
They had a lead, and then Edmonton came pushing back in that one. But yeah, the Hawks, those damn Hawks.
Well, last week they also did it to the Avalanche before they came in. They beat Chicago. So, I mean, it is hard to back the Blackhawks at any time just because of how bad they are, but they are finding ways to win some games at home. And maybe tonight as a plus 130 dog to the Calgary Flames could be that night. Just looking to see where Calgary's at coming in here. They beat the Kings on the weekend. And then that was supposed to be a home and home, I guess, but they didn't get a chance to play that because of the fires, and then the Ducks as well. So I don't know where are you at on the do you?
I was just going to say on the Hawks thing, I did on Friday hit the lock shop play of the day. Red Wings in regulation against the Hawks. I was a little scared, but the Red Wings have just been so good. They've won 7 in a row now, so I managed to milk a little bit out of that on Friday after what was not a good week otherwise on the lock shop plays of the day. You know what? The minus 200 number on the Oilers, you are right. I mean, that's a pretty big number for against the Kings team that, like, the Oilers are bigger favorites against them than the Panthers are against the Philadelphia Flyers, which does not make sense to me at all. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you on the Flyers. It's just such a light night. I don't really want too much of a piece of that Calgary-Chicago game.
If anything, I mean, this is just one of those nights where it's kind of slim pickings. Everyone's going to be watching the football game. I say we get Jake in and we do a same gamer for the Monday nighter.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that. Let's bring in Jake Bolin Moss from Coolbet. Jake, we got to get your thoughts on the spread pick bloodbath this weekend in the National Football League. My goodness, that was a tough one.
Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, I was muted because I didn't want to cut you guys off when I jumped in the lobby here. No, it's an absolute slaughter. It's an absolute slaughter yesterday. I'm having a lot of doubts about tonight. I'm considering the old, sometimes don't be afraid to fade yourself. I said Rams. That's still the way I'm feeling. And with all that being said, I might just flip and take the Vikings. And I don't know. The only thing with that is if I take the Vikings and the Rams do win or cover, I'm going to be real annoyed that I didn't trust myself. But I trusted myself through the whole weekend, and it did not go well. Outside of that Bills game, I did kind of say the Bills game I had down to the point where I said we're going to see Mitch snaps in the fourth quarter. We got those as well. So
that was
the only one I was right about.
That was the one game that I was sitting. Remember on Friday, I was sitting there. I was like, man, I'm thinking about flipping them. And I'm like, nah, screw it. I'll stay with the Broncos. I should have flipped. over. Now, was it just a bad weekend for us? Like, did the book clean up this weekend as well? Or were other people better than we were this weekend?
That's a good question. Usually when favorites are winning, the book's not doing too well. And we had, the Texans win and we had the Commanders win. So I'd say probably those two helped. But yeah, I mean, and you think about it, I feel like most of the games were unders too. So the book, I mean, we probably did all right. I don't have the numbers necessarily in front of me, but just based on what the public usually likes to go to, favorites and overs, I feel like we couldn't buy an over. Last night I was just praying. I'm like, we're due for one good high-scoring game, and we still couldn't even get it in that Bucs Commanders battle. So, yeah, a bit of a struggle for the weekend. Luckily I hit on a handful of props. It kind of kept me alive through the weekend, but I don't know, boys. I am having some doubts tonight.
Hutz, has your mind changed on this? Hutz, were you with the Rams? Were you on the Rams today? Were you on the Vikings? You're on the Vikings. You've been on Vikings.
I'm on the Vikings. You're on the Vikings. And again, I mean, that is almost like I just have to sort of. I mean, you know me. I've been on the Vikings all year long. I don't like the matchup for Minnesota. I mean, I think there were some other matchups that probably would have been better for them. The Rams do make me nervous. Their ability, in big games and I think we've seen it big time. Like when you think about the way they started this season at 1-4 and then running back the way they did, at 9-3 in their last 12 games, they proved a lot, and they do have a really dynamic offense. Kyron Williams is going to be running the football, and as long as Stafford is healthy and he feels good, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp are going to get theirs. Like Jake, you just said, I don't know, we never got that good, fun, high-scoring game. I think that game is going to be tonight.
I hope so.
It could be.
And I'll be honest, I'm just looking. I'm kind of surprised that the total is only 47.5. I was expecting, like, if you had asked me and I hadn't looked, what do you think the over under for this game is? I would have for sure thought it was in the 50s.
Yeah, I was going to say about 51. That's what I sort of assumed.
So the funny thing is, as much as I'm having, we're all having kind of leaning back and forth on this pick and who we're going, I do like the over, and that's something that I'll probably be getting on, and maybe we want to put in a little same gamer right now. But I think the Vikings are a little bit better of a team based on the entire season. It's a very weird scenario that this is going to be played in a neutral zone, neutral site game. I'm very interested to see what the crowd is going to be like. How many people from LA are making it out to support the Rams, and how many Viking fans decided to jump on a bird down to Phoenix and show up at State Farm Arena or Stadium tonight for this game. The 2.5 is tough too. Like that 1 point spread early on, and we were kind of talking about this game
before the move. Yeah.
They ended up, the Vikings got an extra 1.5 points once they moved that game. So the 2.5 is tough to me. This is more of a money line play. So I think I'm looking at Vikings money line and the over. And then there are a few props though that I do like for this game that I know we'll get to in a minute.
Let's dive into these props. Jake, you got a couple player props you want to throw in the mix for a possible parlay for this game tonight?
Yeah, I was kind of just going through the last meeting between these two teams just to see, who was kind of the key performers. Puka had a nice game, 106 yards on 7 receptions. Kyren Williams had a nice game. He had 23 carries, 97 yards. Justin Jefferson also had a big game, 8 receptions for 115. You just look at some of the numbers right now. Puka's numbers like 91.5.
91.5.
That's a lot. But there's another big number there that I wouldn't mind. I don't hate Justin Jefferson, 89.5, 90 yards. I mean, like, if the Vikings are going to have any chance in this game, I got to imagine he's going to play a big role in that. And when Sam Darnold's looking downfield and he's not sure who he's going to go to, I think number 18 is the guy you look for. So I don't hate Jefferson at the 89.5. Let me just see his reception number. I was going to take Puka receptions, but it's 7.5. It's so many. Like, it's just hard to put money on a number that big. Doesn't look like we have Jefferson receptions. Oh, there it is. 6.5. I don't mind that, actually. 6.5 plus money, too, plus 103 for Justin Jefferson.
I know we focus a lot on Puka. I think this is going to be a big cup game, and I think he's really undervalued. And I think people are a little bit spooked as to how quiet he was in December. He only had the 1 catch in the final game against Arizona. He had 3 catches against the Jets. He had none against the Niners. But if you think back to that Buffalo game, he had 5 catches for 92 and a touchdown. This is a game where they're going to need all hands on deck to beat Minnesota. And historically, Matt Stafford trusts Cooper Kupp big time. And I think Puka is going to be getting, the top defenders kind of guarding him right now. So the number is just low enough that, at 48.5, I believe it is. Let me just get right back to it. 48.5. Like, I could see all these receivers hitting their overs, to be honest with you. But the Puka number is a lot bigger. With all the attention that he's going to be getting, I'm expecting Cooper Kupp. What do we have for his receptions? Right here. Over 4.5. So again, he hasn't had that since the Buffalo game. He had 5. So I think I'm on either the receptions, but actually I think at minus 109, 48.5, I think Cooper Kupp gets 50 comfortably tonight. So that's a guy that I really do like. And I would be jumping on Kyren Williams. Just the number is big, 83.5. That to me is a little too high for my liking as far as hitting the over, but I know he's going to get the football, and Sean McVay is going to try to run the football. The Vikes are going to be ready for that and try and force Matt Stafford to beat you.
Yeah, I mean, I was just Kyren Williams touchdown, probably something that I'd be throwing in here tonight. I think that'll be very likely happening. The Cooper Kupp when you said you think both guys can cover the overs, I think I would agree with you on that one. Like, just to look at Puka, because the numbers are huge. But with what he's done for the last 2 months, they're justified, right? Like, if you just look back at his game log, going back to November 11th, since November 11th, 9 catches, 98 yards, 7 catches, 123, 9 catches, 117, 5 catches, 56, 12 catches, 162, 7 catches, 97, 8 catches for 56, and then 10 catches for 129 yards. So he's gone in the last 8, he's gone over 104 times. In 2 of the other 4 games, he would have surpassed this number that we're looking at tonight. So he's just an absolute monster. So I'm fully on board with anything Puka as well. And I think I'd probably take the over 91 and 91.5, because even if they try to put a little bit of extra help on him, I'm not sure it matters. I mean, Matthew Stafford will find the way to get that guy the football. So I do like that as well. So what can we put together? What can we take away from the 3 here? You said, Huss, you liked Cooper Kupp over the 46.5?
Yeah, 48.5.
48.5, okay.
At minus 109.
Okay.
And then Jake has Jefferson.
Over 89.5.
Now, there is a world. We have a pass catching powers exclusive right now.
Oh, we do already.
It's just receptions with those 3 guys. All 3 guys to get 6+ receptions. That's plus 425. We could go our parlay as those 3 guys to hit their yards. If we feel good about the yards, which I feel like we do, we already got the receptions one available in the exclusives. We can get ours up with the yards. So it'll be like, Puka 90 plus, Puka and Jefferson both 90 plus, and Kupp like 49 plus or whatever it was. If you want to go that direction, or do we want to include the over in there?
Yeah, I'm definitely fine with the over there. I mean, at minus 112 over 47.5. I mean, this is inside of a dome, 2 teams that can move the football. They both know they're going to need to score a lot of points to win this football game. I love the over in this one. There's no doubt about it.
I was just looking at it, like, I was worried if we're on Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, but Matthew Stafford really doesn't throw the ball to many other guys. You know what I mean? Like I'm just looking at their last game. Kyron Williams with 3 catches. Cooper Kupp only had 1. Puka had 10. Higbee had a couple. Like, they don't really pass the ball. So I think we're in a pretty comfortable spot on both Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua.
Going back to Kupp as well. I was looking at when they went on that Super Bowl run. 4 games, he was 5 receptions for 61 yards, 9 for 183, 11 for 142 in the NFC Championship game, and then 8 for 92 in the Super Bowl. Like, Stafford's relied on him in the past. I know that was a few years ago, but I think when push comes to shove, like, that's still his guy. But I do think at the same time, Puka's going to see a lot of targets as well. Like, I think you're right, Dusty. Like, having 2 receivers on the same team is nerve-wracking, but at the same time, like, that's who he throws the ball to.
Yeah. Those are the 2 guys he throws the ball to. It's the playoffs. It's a must-win, obviously, at this point. I think it's going to be a steady dive of those 2 guys. Aiden O'Neill over in the Nasty Chat on YouTube, and if you're watching over there, hammer the thumbs up for us. That would be great. He's suggesting we throw in just the game over instead of the Puka over. So it would be the over 47.5. Yeah, and then Cooper Kupp over 48.5, and then the Jefferson number. And I'm okay with that too. Yeah, I'm okay.
I do like that. It'll be fun to have the over. We have the over and a receiver on either side. I think I'd probably prefer that. Not that I don't think Puka's capable of it, but we're talking about 2 guys hitting big numbers, the thresholds. Like, we're kind of buying low on Kupp. I mean, the fact that we're getting
that's pretty much what's happening here. Like that,
right.
Yeah.
Like, I think as far as the Ram receivers, I prefer that number more than the Puka one. And the Vikes, I mean, listen, they're not going down without swinging. And there's going to be a ton to 18 all night.
All right, we'll lock that in then, and that'll give us something to watch for the Rams and the Vikings tonight. The spread in that game, once again, still sitting at 2.5. Hey, how about anything else on football, or can we talk some golf here for a second?
I do have one thing on football. The biggest news from the weekend: Mike Vrabel, new head coach of the New England Patriots. How about that, fellas?
I told you guys.
Just like we talked about, I was pretty happy when the news finally came out.
You're back on. You're back on board with that team, Jake.
I'm back.
Oh, hey, did you see Portnoy did his video just announcing to everyone, hey, the Patriots are officially back.
Yeah,
now.
he's like, we've had a couple down years. He's like, we're back now. It's Vrabel, May, Portnoy. That's the
is it going to be Vrabel, McDaniels, May? That's the big question now, whether Josh comes back to be the OC.
Yeah, I did have a friend mention that to me last week, that McDaniels might be back. Listen, as a coordinator, I don't mind that at all. Obviously, what Josh was able to do with Tom for all those years, not as a head coach. Mike Vrabel, I think, is a great head coach. We talked about this already. I don't need to go into extensive explanation again, but I wouldn't mind if McDaniels came back. Like if that's, I'm now just doing my old faith in Vrabel here, and let's see what he can do here over the next few years with a young quarterback. See what happens. It sounds like he's putting a big emphasis on the O-line, which is really important. I think protecting Drake May, being able to run the football, that's going to be super beneficial to winning football games for this team. I don't know how good they're going to be next. I don't know what's going on over at the EST.
They're playing Tecmo Bowl on the other side of the office right now, and you can still hear it.
Too good. Yeah. Too good. Anyways, I'm excited. We don't have to stay deep on the Vrabel stuff, but I had to get it out.
They're actually really excited about your Vrabel take. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Jake, how about McCarthy? They keep him for a week and a half or whatever it was since the end of the regular season. They deny him opportunities to meet with other teams, and then apparently today say, "Oh, we're going in a different direction."
Well, it's so stupid to me, Huss, because it's not beneficial to anybody. There's even reports I saw that Belichick would have had mutual interest in going to the Cowboys, but it wasn't certain that job was going to be open by the end of the season. And then like you said, they linger around and they don't necessarily let him go. And then you know what, we're going to part ways. So now he's missed out on interview opportunities. They've missed out on interview opportunities. You're doing nobody justice by I don't know what's going on in Dallas.
Nobody does.
I mean, Jerry's getting worked by his kids. Stephen Jones, I'm sure they're kind of saying, Dad, we got to go and do this. I mean, listen, it's not quite the Jets where they're making decisions based on Madden player rankings, but it's still close. That will be a good job, though. I'm kind of the fact that that's opening. I don't know. I thought they were just because of the way the first week had gone, they were just going to keep Mike McCarthy around, give him another couple years, and see if he can try and get him over the hump. But this will be a job that, and when you mentioned Dusty, they missed the window to talk to a Ben Johnson or something like that. Now, maybe they just decide that they're going to wait a little bit,
or they got somebody they already like anyway, right? Yeah. They don't care.
Pay the $10 million to North Carolina, and Bill Belichick works there for 3 weeks, and then they get him there. But listen, the Cowboys are always an interesting one. It's just that would a Bill Belichick go? Would Jerry be willing to give Bill the amount of power that he frankly deserves and will want?
Right.
He said a couple weeks ago that he plans on being the general manager of this team until he dies. So
yeah. Well, Jen Cool just said Jerry's too busy making cameos on Landman on Paramount Plus.
I haven't got to that episode yet. I'm only 4 episodes in. I
got to watch the show still, but I saw the cameo, and I think Huss already mentioned he actually is pretty good. Good in terms of acting. I didn't expect that out of Jerry, but yeah, maybe that's
never met a camera that he didn't like.
Yeah, that's true. This
is his big
shot.
The other
thing, as we get into golf here, guys, we posed this question about an hour ago.
That's where I wanted to go.
Almost 2 hours ago. Yeah, Dusty, if you want to lay it out, we can discuss.
Well, I think it's an interesting one. Coolbet tweeted out a couple hours ago, says, after yet another clutch win, and what a win by Nick Taylor over the weekend, it begs the question, who is the most clutch Canadian athlete of all time? And there are pictures of Marie-Philippe Poulin, Nick Taylor, Sidney Crosby. Jake, who do you take in this situation?
Yeah, I threw it out on my Twitter and on the Instagram. I mean, that Eberle goal late in the World Juniors there to tie the game against
Beautiful
Russia
finish.
is one that, I always think back to. I know it in terms of the sample size.
Too. He scored in the shootout too.
Yeah, like the sample size for Eberle might not be, complete, but I think just in terms of moments of like my childhood, like watching the World Juniors and stuff, that's something that stands out to me. So I like Ebbs. I mean, I know Patty said, what about Freddie Freeman? Captain Clutch.
Well, after last fall.
Captain Canada after what he did in the World Series. Pretty impressive. I know you guys are both pretty high on MPP. So, yeah, I mean, you want to get in on the conversation, we got it on our Instagram and Twitter. But, yeah, let me know what you guys think about it. Fire back a comment from everyone at Coolbet Canada on both Twitter and Instagram, and follow if you haven't already. We do some fun stuff on there. Like, to me, for the course of her career, I mean, Marie-Philippe Poulin is it's hard to argue.
They call her
against
Captain Clutch Huss.
It's like that is who she is. And it's always, now listen, the women's hockey, it's tough because like up until last year, they never had a real they had a pro league, but something that was followed. I mean, obviously it's not where the men is at, but that put that much more importance on the Olympics or the World Championships every year when Canada played the US. And it's this incredible rivalry. And if you go back over the last dozen years, the one name that continually surfaces in overtime to win gold medals, it's Marie-Philippe Poulin. So, I mean, I think overall, there's certainly a whole bunch of moments we could say she'd get my vote. I mean, Sid's right up there. I mean, the golden goal, probably arguably the biggest goal in Canadian history.
Well, and we've been robbed of Sid too. Like we've had 2 Olympics now without Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid. Like we've been robbed of some really important Canadian moments because of the NHL just hasn't gone the last few years. So it's unfortunate, and that's why MPP does get that shine. You look back at I was just to get the videos for the Instagram. I'm looking back at some of the clips, and Sochi, she didn't just score the game winner in OT. She scored the game tying goal late in the third there. The one when the puck goes all the way down, it hits the post for the U.S. and they bring it back in. She ties the game and then scores in the power play and overtime. Like, yeah, she's absolutely up there. The video I posted was from the World Championships, overtime winner, top shelf. Like
you just expect her to do it. Which is insane.
In the biggest moments.
Yeah. Like that. That's the thing. Like watching those games, you just had this feeling. Okay, like normally in that situation, you go, "We're screwed."
Yeah.
But no, 29's out there. Watch this. She's probably going to get it done. That's a fun thing, and I didn't use the exact term, but I will say this: Nick Taylor, I think we can safely say now shares a nickname with Nick Foles. Because
Big D Taylor.
What he did yesterday in the playoff, and following up. I mean, listen, the putt that he sunk, not just to win a tour event, but to be the first Canadian in 6-7 decades to win the Canadian Open. It literally is an iconic moment. I mean, they changed the damn logo of the tournament to the picture of him after he sank the 90-footer or whatever it is. So, listen, I want Nick Taylor on my scramble team when we need a birdie on 18. And I don't know if you guys saw what happened on 18 as well. Again, I was watching football, but I went back and one of it was like covers or something like that.
Yeah.
Went through the live odds shift in Nick Taylor. And after his second shot on 18, he was 400 to 1.
Oh, man.
400 to 1. He chips in for eagle to get to a tie for the lead, gets into the playoff, and then wins it. And the crazy thing for Taylor was he, like, for all the clutchness of like what he did in the playoff and that chip, he missed a 4-footer and a 3-footer on back-to-back holes on 14 and 15 before doing what he did on 18. But yes, we can definitely use the moniker for Nick Foles, I think, for Nick Taylor now after he did it again in the playoff. And I think Mark Amf was mentioning his on him at 100 to 1. So nicely done for anyone that jumped on the Canadian Nick Taylor at the Sony.
The other thing.
Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
Sorry, Dusty. Dan Rappaport did tweet. He says, He chips in to tie the lead on 18. And he says, Nick's a big moments guy. Might not always have the week-to-week consistency, but when the guy has a sniff of the trophy, he morphs into prime Tiger. Like, it just like the minute he's right there, it's like, uh-oh, like here he comes. Because every time he seems to win these tournaments, he's winning them in playoffs. And that's not easy to do in its own. No. So, yeah, impressive stuff from Nick Taylor.
Yeah, to be comfortable in those situations says a lot about your composure as an athlete. It's pretty impressive. Huss, what's coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk today, buddy?
Well, we've got a lot to talk about. Busy weekend for the Jets, getting 3 of 4 at home. The vibes are high after a 3-0 shutout to the Avalanche on Saturday. By the way, and we'll see what this number is kind of when we get to the break and there's updated
hey, he's not
odds.
Even top 5 at NHL.com, buddy. I know exactly where you're going with this.
Because those losers don't watch the Jets. Like, they have no clue. Luckily, individuals like Elliot Friedman led off 32 Thoughts today. Speaking about that, Connor Hellebuck has as many shutouts as he has losses this year. 6 losses, 6 shutouts. Now a 202, flirting with the 930. He's leading everything.
He's faced more shots than anybody else, too. Like, he's just, yeah.
Wins, shutouts, goals against average, save percentage, minutes played on a first-place team in the league. I mean, what the hell more? If you can't win it doing that, then just say goalies aren't eligible.
That's kind of what I said this morning.
Huss, he's going to single-handedly carry my fantasy hockey team to the championship this year.
Yes.
I am crushing everybody.
Hopefully he can do the same with the Jets.
Every single week. It's incredible.
Yeah, I have him in my Wandering Cone Hockey League. I'm looking for a 4-peat. And he's just absolutely lights out this year. So it's been good. So that's coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Patty's going to join us tomorrow. We'll move on to golf a little bit earlier this week. Tiger will be in action at TGL tomorrow as well. We'll be breaking down this Monday nighter. We'll be obviously recapping the Oilers game as well. Oil Stream's coming up here in 3 minutes at Edmonton Sports Talk. If you're listening on TuneIn or iHeart or at EdmontonSportsTalk.com, you can pop over there and be ready for the Oil Stream, which is coming up here right away as well. Boys, enjoy the let's get a big Cooper Cup game tonight. I think I'd be on board tonight with a big Cooper Cup game. I think that would be what we are looking for tonight. All right, boys.
Jefferson over, Cup over, game over. Let's get it.
Let's go.
We've got that going up. Oil Stream will be coming up right away on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, hammer the thumbs up here and hit autoplay before the show ends. That'll take you right on over to the Oil Stream. Coming up, Tom Gazzola live from the rink next.